Many things causing the market correction yesterday, but we're going to take a look at Ethereum and also Sharplink Gaming. This could be a play that very interesting things could be happening. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. Let's get started today. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital. This is where you guys can get your own crypto IRA, get it going. And of course, you can do it whether it's with ETH, Bitcoin, silver, gold. You get to manage your entire portfolio, and it's very easy to set up. All you have to do is use our link down below. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward to get started. Go out there and get your own IRA for crypto. All right, a couple things I want to hit on today. I put out this tweet early this morning. I was talking basically around IPOs and companies that would be utilizing strategies to basically buy digital assets. Now, one of them that we've been talking about here on the show has been Sharplink Gaming. Sharplink Gaming, very connected into Ethereum, and also Joseph Lubin. We all know who that is. So this is a strategy I think that is going to hit the market in a very, very big way. So be on the lookout for that. I want to welcome in Mr. Evan Aldo. How are you, Evan?
Doing fantastic, Paul. Always an honor to be on. Thanks.
Yeah, so we had a good time in Vegas. I'm still interested in your gambling thesis around this. So you guys, if you haven't listened to Evan's gambling thing, he actually has put this out on his YouTube channel, so you can learn a little bit more about it. I'll give you a link to his YouTube channel here in a second, but well, maybe we can use that strategy on buying some stocks today. Buy enough of them and eventually you win. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So here's a tweet from Joseph Lubin. Of course, you guys know him from the Ethereum Foundation. Some are misrepresenting SBET's S3 filing, and basically what it boiled down to is everybody was kind of assuming that they were selling from within. That was not necessarily the case. All of this was just normal processes that happen anytime that they're filing. So for many of you that saw the SBET stock drop along with Ethereum also coming down, of course we all know what's going on with that, with what's happening in Europe. But when you look at Sharplink Gaming, this was really the story. They acquired, and you have to remember, this is the largest acquisition of Ethereum by a publicly traded company ever. 463 million. This was huge because it has not been put out there. And when you look at this, they raised an additional 79 million during this push because they were only going at, I think, 425 million originally. 95% of Sharplink's ETH holdings are actively deployed in staking and liquid staking solutions. So this is a good example of companies, I think maybe on the extreme, that are going to utilize digital assets. And we're going to probably see a lot more of this strategy going forward. We saw the rise on it mainly because of what was happening around the strategy of purchasing ETH as a publicly traded company. And then we saw the fall of that. And if you look at their general value right now, around 690 million, this was the drop that we started to see right here. When you look at the chart right now, how would you play this one if you were really a big ETH maxi, which I know you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good buy. I'll tell you that. I mean, I think it's well, I don't want to be too, overly optimistic, but I think there's a good shot here because, we zoom out here and this is kind of like a huge point. This is your point of control. So, I mean, if you had that big drop down, I mean, there's good and bad here. Like the good is that you're hitting such a major point. You had your huge drop down. So in all likelihood, when you zoom in here, you should be able to eventually, hopefully, assuming I was messing around with it a bit. I think ETH's got to come up to 4,000 or 5,000 to get back up to these kind of highs. But it would be similar to kind of how MicroStrategy outperformed Bitcoin in the early days when they were acquiring it. So, ETH doubling 200 or 300% for this would be kind of likely right here. But be careful. If there may be some things we don't know about that. I mean, if there's something we don't know that isn't the best thing, that could be, where things get a little bit hazy. But if it does go like MicroStrategy, if things, have good management, you could do something like this. I would do this on spot. Don't use leverage or options on this probably. But, something like this, a stop loss below that low and trying to, ride this up for a while makes a lot of sense here. My guess is that into the end of the year, if we can get, let's say we get ETH up to like 4,000 by, sometime at the end of the summer or whatever, I think it's going to be a slow and gradual incline. And then if you can get up to 7,000 for ETH, you're looking at potentially, 114, those highs right there, which is going to be, let's see what that was. That's a 10x. That's kind of the highest I would see too. And then from these lows, it already came up about 50x. I don't really see it going much past that this year unless there's some major things happen, like ETH going to 10,000 or something. But yeah, this would be kind of my scenario for this right now.
Well, it would be if they do use the strategy that Strategy used, MicroStrategy, in terms of doubling down on ETH, especially with this depressed market as we're seeing it right now. And we are not necessarily out of the woods just yet. I mean, there's a lot of activity on it. But if you look at Robinhood, of course, is very active right now with the market dip. So it's kind of interesting. When you look at the ETH chart right now and consider, is this an entry point? Because I think a lot of people were surprised that we came back down to around 2,400. What do you like around the ETH chart right now? Because this will probably guide the course of where Sharplink is going.
Yeah, ETH looks good too. I mean, obviously, a less speculative, it's still speculative, but less of a speculative bet here. You're in this big range, and your technical target, if you break upward, is going to be at the 3,200, which I think is the goal for end of month, early next month at the latest for Ethereum. Things still generally look pretty good here. It's kind of a bullish formation. You're making higher highs, which is good, and you should jump forward. If you look at some of these higher time frames here, you got some continuation. Look at your money flow coming up, green dot right there. That's your VWAP coming back up. So definitely a lot of continuation, which would keep us bullish into the end of the month. I mean, most bullish possible scenario, and this is where things could get crazy, would be coming up to 4,000 by the end of the month. I wouldn't rule it out completely, but more likely what you would see is that jump up to 3,200 by the end of the month before your typical kind of summer lull that we kind of see in the summer, and then maybe a retest of some of these prior highs, maybe 2,700. And then the real fun kind of begins, probably in September when you finally see that rate cut, and then you make your new all-time highs and potentially get up to my real big point sometime between October and December at 7,300. So ETH still looking really good, hitting a big point right here. I wouldn't get too pessimistic. I don't see any reason to be too pessimistic right now.
Is this still a good entry point for ETH if you were dollar cost averaging?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
When you look at Sharplink, I'm looking at the FINRA data here on shorts, which is kind of interesting because we've seen a company that has lost more than 10% on its stock price, which usually causes some triggers within Wall Street around this. But it seems to be slowing a little bit because this was the ratio was over 60 just the other day, which is kind of interesting, and it seems to obviously be slowing there from what it was on the 11th. Do you feel like shorts might flip this around and start longing Sharplink?
Yeah, probably, or a short squeeze. I mean, it's hard to say with that, but yeah, there's a lot of shorts that came down. I mean, this is obviously anyone who has any little knowledge of looking at a chart could obviously say this is probably the time you should take profits on your shorts and maybe turn around. So yes, in all likelihood, they will close out. It could take time though. I mean, this could be kind of sideways while ETH does pretty well this month, and you may not see too much until more towards the end of the year. It could take time.
Interesting. Okay. Because this is the group of companies that were involved in funding that purchase. You'll notice many of them. There's Parify, Pantera Capital, Aldo, Galaxy Digital, Arrington Capital, which is big into Solana. I mean, this is pretty much the who's who of the crypto side of things when it comes to VCs. So funding was very well backed. Likelihood is we could see maybe another round, especially if ETH continues to go down. What is your likelihood of seeing ETH fall again? Or do you feel like this might be the bottom?
I think it's pretty unlikely. I don't see there's not that much short interest in ETH right now. And when you look at, I'll show you the chart again. I mean, the main thing would be a breakdown from this area, and then you'd break down to that 2,100. But I just don't see it being too likely. And if we do the other thing that I wanted to, now I remember. The most rare bullish sign ever here. We could actually see it on regular candles, little trigger wave right there on your monthly. So same thing right there. That was your big rally upward in 2023. That gives you a technical target at your old all-time high by October. So the likelihood, I mean, anything could happen, but I don't think it's very likely this would drop down to 2,100. If it does, I don't think it would be there very long.
Yeah. Well, I think the question will be obviously the heated tensions in the Middle East. Is this a black swan or a gray swan event, that we could be seeing brewing? And I think that's what everybody's kind of questioning right now on the markets. If you look and compare to what MicroStrategy did in the early days, and I think a lot of people have to kind of compare what they did, because they were a company that was struggling desperately to make money. They were not making money at that time. In fact, the company was losing, hemorrhaging funds. And if you look at what MicroStrategy did in that period of time, I'll scan down to it. Right there was the first date. That was August 11th, 2020, when MicroStrategy issued the press release announcing that they had commenced their Dutch auction, which was a tender offer to purchase 250 million of value of the shares that they held towards Bitcoin. Now, if you look back on that date, go back to the MicroStrategy chart on that date, August 11th, 2020.
Yeah, I just found it right here. And if we look at the chart here, it's right around that August 20.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you had a nice rally upward, which, in the year, we're a few months ahead of that right now. So about a 10x right there. But just keep in mind, the difference here with the SBET is this was only up 57%. SBET is, if you compare it to SBET, we're already up. Even with this giant drop down, you're still up 300%. So, I mean, if you compare it to that, that's a 10x right there, like we mentioned. Keep in mind, though, the sequel is normally worse. The sequel is normally a little bit worse, but 700% back to those highs could be a decent deal right there. I mean, if we want to get really speculative, I guess it's not impossible to go up to 189, by end of year. That would you'd probably need a 10K or 11K Ethereum for that to happen. I would kind of estimate here a new all-time high for Ethereum, you'd be at 48, and then 7,500 for Ethereum, you'd be at over 100, slightly new all-time high or something, or not even new all-time high. Local, if we go way back, yeah, you're still below your highs for stock, but new local high for the year.
Yeah, I think the thing that I want to compare it to is when you look at strategy, this is the strategy tracker and the NAV of what they were doing, because they were about 8x of what their value was when they started to ingest that in. With Sharplink, it's really right now, I mean, this thing's only valued at about 650 million currently, versus what they've already been purchasing here with ETH. I mean, you go out and buy almost 500 million in just Ethereum by itself, much less its move. If it goes to $5,000, I mean, what would the win be on that? And then the speculative nature of how that could play forward. So it's getting kind of interesting. I just wonder, because we are seeing a lot of companies that I think that we're going to see maybe their first entry into digital assets. And my speculation is that Ethereum is going to be one of the top assets that many companies, either one, will start doing something as projects, or two, they'll just simply put it on their balance sheet. Good example of that, Evan, is this right here. Walmart and Amazon now exploring to launching their own stablecoin. I mean, this is getting out of control. What do you think about stablecoins launching on major retailers like this? Is this still very bullish for the industry, or is this, have we just hit the top?
It's bullish. I think it's bullish, but it shows signs that we're probably still in that 4-year cycle. I mean, I could see us being bullish, for another 6-7 months into the end of the year, maybe early next year, but then you're probably going to get your typical kind of 2026 bear market. So, does it tell me that, Bitcoin is going to go up to 200 or 300,000 this year? No. But does it tell me Bitcoin could go up to 150K, maybe a little bit more? Sure. Does it tell me ETH could double or triple this year? Sure. Does it say ETH's going to go up 10x this year? Probably not. So that's what I would say. But it's bullish. Yeah, I would say it's bullish overall.
Well, I think the point that we're getting at is the Genius Act getting ready to go live next week. My guess is we're going to get a passage on that. It's not really a guess. I'm predicting that it's going to happen. We're going to see that occur. Also, the likelihood of what we're going to see is kind of the Uniswap Act, the Clarity Act around DeFi. I think that also is going to continue to push a lot of the growth going forward. So still very bullish in the market right now. We're going to get to Bitcoin and Uniswap. I want to show you something special about that. Before we go there, I want you guys to jump over to Evan's channel, and you can just get in right here. Evan Aldo over on YouTube. Catch his latest live stream right there. So he's doing live stream. This was yesterday. ETH closing in on 3K, but we obviously saw the adjustment down. Do you think, how far away are we from 3K, and what's your window for that?
Well, end of month to early next month would be the big window, I would think. I think there's a strong likelihood you can get there. I mean, we came down a little bit, obviously, with the Israel-Iran thing. So, there's always going to be those things, but the timeline has always been the end of this month, early next month.
Big news out there in the market, and that is the asset universe for Coinbase just got a lot bigger. DEX trading. And you're going to be able to get all sorts of assets, thousands maybe, of assets out there on the Coinbase app, which is going to open up the market. All of this is going to be most likely taking place over on Uniswap. Uniswap is one that we've been watching for quite a while. It is a major asset that could have huge benefits going forward, especially with this Clarity Act coming into play. How do you like Uniswap, and would this be a play right now for you?
The ERC20 tokens, especially Uniswap, look really good right now, Paul. And, I'll tell you, we're jumping up right here. We were at 860. We came down a little bit, but you're trying to reclaim this big level at 755, which is really good right here. So I think when you really zoom out here, similar to Ethereum, you got a lot of these nice waves right here. I think on the 3-week, a little trigger wave forming right here, similar to that one. So I think there's a high likelihood of coming back up to that $12 area, maybe sometime by July, more likely sometime by September. And then if you can break up through there, I could see this jumping up to your next target, which would be right around close to the old all-time high, $25. There's a lot of potential here, 3 to 4x into the end of the year. I really like Uniswap right now. I think it looks really good. Good money flow here in your 2 days as well.
Yep.
So yeah.
We got to talk about Bitcoin before we get out of here. Looking at Bitcoin trading right now at 105, but some people may have snagged that dip around 102.9. When you look at Bitcoin right now and the way it's playing, do you feel like the 120K is within reach before, this is the key question, before a Fed cut?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if you're thinking Fed cut's going to be in September, absolutely. 120K is like 3,200 for Ethereum, in my opinion.
Yep.
And we can look at the area right here. You came down and you're forming what would be, one of my favorite patterns in a post-halving year in an uptrend. Reverse head and shoulders. This is going to give you a conservative estimate at, 115. If you want a real, moderate estimate, I wouldn't even say liberal estimate, would be that 117 right there.
Okay.
But in terms of the way you would map this out, early July would be that 120. So the 117, 120 area. I do think that ETH may continue to kind of outperform, Bitcoin, as we see right here. ETH has outperformed Bitcoin since the bottom in April, about 40%. So I do think there's more momentum. You may see Ethereum at 3,200, but Bitcoin's only at, 115 or something. So I think Bitcoin, it's ETH season. That's what I would say for the next few months. ETH season right now. So, but this looks good all around. Money flow coming up. I mean, you could try to long this up to 110 would make a lot of sense here. So yeah.
Evan, if you look at the Bitcoin ETH chart, ETH Bitcoin chart, I mean, this is, yes, it did recorrect, but it also is a little bit sideways here right now. Mm-hmm. When you're thinking around early July, possibly for another all-time high for Bitcoin, do you feel like that's where ETH is more in that, you said 3,300, I think, by that period of time?
Yeah, I mean, 3,200, you could be up to, I know it may sound too optimistic, you could be up to that 4,000 for Ethereum. Let me show you that chart again really quick here. That ETH versus Bitcoin chart, you got your reverse head and shoulders, you got a technical target all the way up at the previous kind of place, which would be 0.03 right here where we were in November. So ETH outperforming Bitcoin by another 40%, especially with the SBET, especially with a lot of money, potentially coming in. You could see a $4,000 Ethereum. You could see that.
Interesting things right now. I think a lot of it is, again, this is back to the point of how convicted are you guys on, digital assets as a whole. When we do see these pullbacks like this, is this a time when you guys dollar cost average and go a little bit deeper in on your assets? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure and, of course, check out Evan Aldo's channel over on YouTube. You guys can find him, just Evan Aldo. Get on his latest stream, and make sure you tell him that you came in from PBN. Evan, thanks so much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Paul. It was an honor.
You bet. All right, so guys, get in on the Diamond Circle. That's the place where you guys can get additional content from me. And also, we have a Telegram group that is absolutely exploding, and I am in there every day. I talk with you guys. I chat with you about different things. Obviously, we talk trades, we talk investments, strategies, what sectors are doing well. We'll leave a link down for that. And of course, catch me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.